Hello and welcome to Common Sense. Welcome to our show where we offer you nothing more than simple facts, plain arguments, and common sense. I'm your host, Waleed Rahman, aka the Afghan Jay Leno.
So insulting!
I gotta take that one on the chin. Anyways, the topic of today's show is the portrayals of Muslims in the media. Now, there's no mistaking that Islam and Muslims in America have a PR problem. They're being targeted and singled out because we've let fear and hate divide us in ways contradictory to the ideals of America. I mean, just look at the news.
I think Islam hates us.
I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation.
It's time to wake up and smell the falafel.
Yeah, I know. Now, I'm going to try to stay the course and talk specifically about the media and not the defective Oompa Loompa. We got played, America. You see, here's the problem. Only 1% of Americans are Muslims. Yes, 1%. And they're not even the 1% we should be worried about. In fact, here's a list of things that are more likely to kill you than a Muslim extremist. Television. Yes, televisions kill 176 people annually. It's 55 times more likely to kill you than a Muslim extremist. Fireworks. According to Consumer Product Safety Commission, an average of 7.1 people die because of fireworks. I don't get the 0.1, but let's just think about that, though. The 4th of July is more dangerous than Muslim extremists.
Oh, shit! Oh, Jesus! Lord Jesus!
Not surprisingly, the police are 312 times more likely to kill you than a Muslim terrorist. Choking. And we're not even talking about the Golden State Warriors, because you know they got it this year. But 2,500 people die of asphyxiation every year, making it 781 times more likely to kill you than a Muslim extremist.
I really don't want to talk about it.
Oh, and don't forget those pesky elevators. They kill 27 Americans per year. And lastly, painkillers kill an average of 16,060 Americans a year, making the pharmaceutical companies 5,019 times more dangerous than a Muslim terrorist. Folks, these are more serious problems we need to be focused on. As you can see, the fear of Muslims is unsubstantiated, but it's nothing new in the media. From the inception of motion pictures, Muslims have been stereotyped as villains or victims in need of saving. There's no balanced representation in the media. Remember when we said that Muslims make up 1% of the American population? In fact, according to the Public Religion Research Institute study, 57% of Americans know very little about Islam, while 26% know nothing. And those numbers haven't really changed in 30 years. The majority of Americans don't even know a Muslim, and they form the perception through what they see in the media. And it all starts at a very young age. I mean, just listen to the original opening for Aladdin, which was edited out when it was released in home entertainment.
Oh, I come from a land, from a faraway place, where the caravan camels roam, where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home.
Wow, just indulge me here. Aladdin is a kid's film. Many kids, like I said earlier, formulated their opinions on Muslims and Arabs based on this film. And Aladdin starts off as native, but as the film progresses, he becomes more westernized. Jasmine and Aladdin are also the only two human characters with American accents. All of this sends a message that the West is superior to Middle Easterners. Here's the thing, though. If you're a Muslim actor, then there's a 99% chance you're playing a terrorist at some point in your career. I mean, present company included. Trust me, I would know. Yes, that's yours truly being blown up in a drone strike. See, the news, film, television, print, social media, no matter what form of mass communication you use, you're going to be bombarded with anti-Islamic sentiment. Whether it's done consciously or not, from the White House on down, we've literally been transported back to the Dark Ages. You see, HBO, this is what happens when you delay Game of Thrones. Ironically, a show that has a wall, and look what happened there. Now, listen to a former national security advisor giving an interview last year to Business Insider.
Islam is a political ideology based on a religion. So this is a political system that we are facing, and we must defeat this political system. Isms that we faced over the last 75 years, Nazism, fascism, communism, that now it's radical Islamism.
Now, I'm going to stop you there. Yes, he just compared Islam to Nazism and communism, which is absurd and offensive, if nothing other than textbook othering. I don't know what is. It's But if they weren't coming from a guy that got dismissed for being so close to the Russians that he lied to the vice president. See, rhetoric like that, coupled with the Muslim ban, have led to 4 mosques in the US being burned in a 7-week period. That doesn't even include the mass shooting at a Quebec mosque that the media initially reported as being Moroccan. The guy who originally called the police man had too, but as soon as it was revealed that the perpetrator was white, he became a lone wolf. And who, I'm not making this up, is a Katy Perry fan. Notice he wasn't even labeled a terrorist. And then some other racist shot 2 Indian men in a bar in Kansas City because he thought they were Iranian. Why aren't these guys labeled as Christian terrorists? Every time you see a Muslim involved, the religion is always brought up. There's a constant narrative being pushed through the media of an us versus them mentality. There's no major coverage throughout the nation of Muslims raising hundreds and thousands of dollars to help repair Jewish cemeteries desecrated by racists. Instead, we give the spotlight to Trump, who keeps pushing his narrative. I'll give you a second to freeze frame and check. Now, for your enjoyment, here's a TBT of a bald eagle attacking Trump. That's the spirit of America. Don't fuck with us. Can we see that again? I love the part where he freaked out, when the bald eagle attacked him. Now, to summarize, here's Rez Ahmed, star of HBO's A Night Of and Star Wars Rogue One.
Sometimes it's very easy to look at the screen and go, oh, look, things are changing so much. Look, there's Reese, there's Idris, there's Michaela Cole doing chewing gum. These examples are often prominent because they are the exception that proves the rule. Prominent successes can mask structural problems. Obama was in the White House and you still needed the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm getting on a plane to LA to attend the Star Wars premiere, and I still get that second search before I board the plane. By the way, if you've never had the experience of being asked for a selfie by someone who's swabbing you for explosives, it's... I'd recommend it. It's really quite thrilling. Do they love me? Do they hate me? Ooh, not sure. If you're used to seeing yourself reflected in culture, I really want you to take a minute to kind of understand how much it means to someone who doesn't, to see themselves reflected back. Every time you see yourself in a magazine, a billboard, TV, film, it's a message that you matter. You're part of the national story, that you're valued. You feel represented. Now, if we fail to represent people in our mainstream narratives, they'll switch off. They'll retreat to fringe narratives, to filter bubbles online, and sometimes even off to Syria. In the mind of the ISIS recruit, he's a version of James Bond, right? In their mind, everyone thinks they're the good guy. Have you seen some of these ISIS propaganda videos? They're cut like action movies. Where's the counter-narrative? Where are we telling these kids that they can be heroes in our stories, that they're valued?
Now, earlier we talked about Aladdin, and it was announced that Disney is going to make a live-action version of the film. Now, there's already a Care 2 petition for Disney not to whitewash the film, so we hit the streets of LA to get their opinions. Disney's making a live-action version of Aladdin. Who would you like to see play Aladdin and Jasmine?
Ooh.
Khloe Kardashian.
Let me think. Quick second.
I really don't care for Aladdin, but as long as Kim Kardashian doesn't play Jasmine, I'm good.
I feel like Salma Hayek would make a good Jasmine, Like, she's real sexy and beautiful.
The crew from Slumdog Millionaire.
Ariana Grande.
How about John Stamos?
Ryan Reynolds. He's younger.
Kendall Jenner.
Kendall Jenner,
Yes.
Interesting choice.
Is she white?
People
I think you should be Aladdin. How about that?
I'll take it.
I say Zayn. Zayn Malik.
The guy from One Direction.
Correct.
Aladdin, I wouldn't mind the guy that plays Raj on Big Bang Theory.
To think about that. The kid from the Jungle Book, Mowgli.
Ooh, good choice. Really, good choice.
Mowgli. I agree.
Chili. From TLC.
Do you know that Aladdin and Jasmine take place in the Middle East, right?
Yes.
You do know Jasmine's supposed to be a teenager, right?
Oh, she's that young?
Yeah.
She's a little older.
What do you think about the rumors that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone are going to play Aladdin and Jasmine?
Oh, that won't fit.
Kind of doesn't really surprise me. I kind of feel like that's what they would gear to first.
He's a badass.
Emma Stone's not, though?
No. She should not be Jasmine.
No! That is
No,
a
that's
whitewashing, and we're white as a fuck!
Look at us!
It doesn't fit my imagination of who should play those characters. It doesn't fit the land that it's based in.
I didn't really get La La Land. It's not that I didn't like it, I just, wasn't jizzing my pants over it.
Earlier, I met with Sue Obeidi, director of MPAC, the Muslim Public Affairs Council's Hollywood Bureau, at their offices in Los Angeles. Let's take a look. So, Sue, if I can call you that, what does your role entail as director?
Pretty much all day I am working on connecting with decision makers, creatives in the industry. I'm working on consulting on projects, different projects that have Muslim or Islamic themes or Muslim characters. I'm connecting Muslim talent with decision makers in the industry so we can get them in the door to maybe be in writers' rooms, behind the camera, in front of the camera, so they can help in changing the narrative.
Now, do you feel that it's because that there's a lot of, because people are not the Muslims not properly represented in the media, that they stay away from jobs in the media?
The struggle is that even though they want us to be good guys, they want us to be good guys after creating a cloud of suspicion in stories. Okay. So that's kind of like, okay, the Muslim is going to be the hero, maybe, but only after we, put him through the ringer, and there's a black cloud, and he's going to be innocent, and maybe not even the hero. He'll just be innocent.
Now, you mentioned that Hollywood had a big impact on you.
Yeah.
You're learning a lot.
Yeah.
If you look into media, since the beginning, we've Muslims, myself included, we've always been sort of marginalized and been treated as others.
Yes.
How do you? A lot of Americans get, Muslims only account for 1% of the nation.
Correct.
And a lot of their opinions, like from people like in the Midwest, from like these small town, like, something Falls in Kansas,
Yeah.
they don't know any Muslims.
Right.
And they get their opinions from watching these TV shows.
I think there is a direct correlation, because if the industry doesn't have a resource to go to, then they're going to reach out to other people. So if there aren't any, Arab or Afghan actors, they might go to a Hispanic actor that may look Middle Eastern or Afghan, right? But as we enter the industry and we give the industry resources and choices, of course it's going to change. It's happening now.
I continued a little trip to Universal Studios to meet with writer-producer Rashad Rassani, whose work includes Allegiance, Burn Notice, Shades of Blue, and White Collar.
I've had various experiences. One experience that I had that worked against me was I showed up to a job interview and they were clearly surprised by my ethnicity because they expected a different ethnicity.
Right.
And so I was immediately shown the door right when I got there. So that was sort of a reverse discrimination. But I think a lot of what I went through when I was applying for things, obviously a lot of times this discrimination that affects you the most is the ones you don't see because your resume just never goes anywhere and you'll never know it. So a lot of it was also me thinking that I was being discriminated against. And so actually when I first started writing, I titled all my scripts R.K. Raisani, not even realizing that the Raisani was giving me away anyway. But, so it's hard for me to kind of separate sometimes what was me anticipating a prejudice and versus what actually happened.
What are some of the struggles that you face writing roles for Muslims?
Well, I have to answer. I don't know. And maybe this is part of the issue, is I don't know how many times I've ever written a role for a Muslim, to be honest, who wasn't an adversary and wasn't, basically, a bad guy. Because these are none of these shows are shows I created or had any hand in. I'm a staffer on the show, and you break a story within the context of it. And I think omission is the biggest.
Interesting. Now, do you feel like that Hollywood, we talked about, do you think Hollywood furthers the stereotypes?
Well, I think they're mimicking how they think their audience perceives how life is, maybe sometimes. I do think that the last 10 years, since I've even been working as a writer, we've made great strides. So I think that's the big step, is to get them into the pilots, in TV at least. As characters who have something to do other than be Muslim. You know what I mean? That they can be part of their biography. And they can, just as you don't have Christian characters or white characters or black characters who are defined by the fact on a show that they are black or white or Christian or whatever, or Jewish. Whereas we're still in the place now where if there's a Muslim character, it's always like, wow, look how Muslim this Muslim character is. So the more we can kind of get them into shows and have it be a fact of life that they are Muslim, but that doesn't necessarily define them.
So you believe that a Muslim can make money in the box office?
Oh, for sure. I just think we haven't. I mean, Omar Sharif already did it. Like 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So it can be done, but I think systemically, and it starts smaller. It starts with the third and fourth characters on TV shows who are regulars, but maybe not the star at the beginning. And you allow them to start popping off, like on the night of, you have an actor who springs out of a role and suddenly people say, oh, he can really act and he's got an interesting, presence. Let's put him in Rogue One, or let's put him in, and that's how you slowly with each, or Mindy Kaling is another example of somebody who had a small a minor role on The Office, and people responded to her talent and her, she took that opportunity and expanded it. So I think you just need to have that happen 1,000 times over, and that will take a little bit of time. I do think we're in a moment of transition in a good way, but I think we're at the beginning of it, so it still feels darker than it does light.
And for those of you that still don't get it, here's a musical recap.
Orientalism is a Western mechanism coined by my boy Saeed, a Palestinian breed. He said, and I quote, a way of coming to terms with the Orient that is based on the Orient, special place in your Western experience. I'm afraid from China to Syria, Western media crying hysteria, big beards, brown skin, cloaked in jewels, only to end up deceived, looking like fools against a Western protagonist. Indiana Jones ain't the only one to top that list. Cut off the heel, and if the shoe fits, milk it. Dehumanized, their lives are so sexualized, you can see it in their eyes, sitting on their high horse, a grand old Victorian force, projecting this new lens only to make amends, to suppress the desires that can only be quenched by a means that will send you to fire, so they say. So blame it on the other guy, we'll live vicariously, who cares about their culture? This is about you and me. Not to mention the co-option money. Orientalism is a Western mechanism, its imagination carries the best. And the rest? Well, the rest is history.